It is time, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, for a Equity.Guru investor roundtable. Today it is Azincourt Energy Corporation, which is AAZ or AAZ on the Venture Exchange. It is energy, it is uranium, it is Alex Klenman, the CEO out of Vancouver. I'm Rob. Yes, my captors are treating me well, based on my backdrop. That's Galen down there in the basement with you. What are you making today?
Carrot cake cookies
Carrot cake cookies.
with cream cheese icing, enough to
That
make you
was.
fall over in a coma.
All right, I'll be right over.
Dylan, you got to open a bakery or something, man, or
Yeah.
a cafe.
Chris Perry is kitty corner in his fatigues in honor of Chris Perry. In honor of what?
It's Ukes.
There you
You,
go.
Pierogies.
our Ukrainian friends.
To hell with the Russians. I mean,
Screw
you know, the Russian people are fine,
Yeah,
but
no,
you know,
Putin can take a long walk off a short pier.
the nation of Russia.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's Vishal upstairs. He'll be talking charts and making smart comments in a few minutes. Well, we start with Galen, who you can find on the website right around us, talking about Azincourt, giving us the what do you call it? Give us the 60, the 40, the
sure.
30,
The lowdown, the 360, the bird's eye,
dive.
you know, that kind of thing.
the 10-4.
Yeah, that one, exactly. We've talked about Azincourt before. Alex Klenman has been in charge for a while now, not too long, but enough to sort of really put emotion behind the company. It's been around for a long time, actually, and has gone through some name changes here and there. It started focusing on uranium and has now settled in the Athabasca Basin, which is the most prolific uranium-based deposit area in North America. And in fact producing some of the most high-grade deposits that we have seen in North America. So wonderful place to be, friendly territory if you want to be mining. You don't have to worry about, well, Russians invading you. And also it helps that he's going for uranium, as we seem to be heading in the direction of renewable resources which require a baseload generation, and nuclear power seems to be that source. Now, they're working on their flagship Preston East project, which they had just finished up a small drill program last year, but unfortunately got some bad weather and just had to leave. So now they're deep in the midst of the new year, their winter 2021-22 program, and so far the holes have been producing some pretty interesting results. Higher radioactivity, making everybody happy, and also, well, they've got about half the holes left, basically. They've got about 3,000 meters drilled already. They plan to do a total of 6, and between 30 and 35 holes to really get in there and delineate their resources. Now, they've got all their permitting, which is nice. It'll take them through to the end of this program. We don't have to worry about any stops or starts. And they're really well tied in with the local communities and with the indigenous nations that are there. They're doing some really good relationships. So you don't have to worry about any of that holding them up as well. Really what we're looking for on this thing is let's see some more results. Let's make everybody happy. They've got the place. They've got the location. They're situated around some pretty rich deposits.
Exactly.
So, and Alex has put the company into action, as it were. So now we're waiting for the results of those actions, and hopefully it makes everybody happy. And, you know, I can't guarantee anything because I'm not the person looking in the holes, but, you know, it's a pretty rich place. So they just might have something to come up with.
Strategically located next to NextGen's high-grade deposit, Fission's high-grade deposit, Cameco's joint venture products. So it looks like there's something around there.
That's right. They're living in the Beverly Hills of uranium mining.
Do you guys know what uranium looks like in the ground, like when you pull it out? Is it shiny or does it glow, or what the hell is it? What does it look like? Do we know? Ever seen it? Picture?
Well,
I've seen the yellow cakes.
that's about it, basically.
Yellow
Yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, since I'm not, you know, a uranium miner, I can't necessarily tell you exactly
Yeah,
how
I
it
get
looks
it.
coming out of the ground.
I'm just curious.
You're not going to see it everywhere, but generally in some mining shows, I mean, well, not every mining show actually, but some people will bring the yellow cake, right? Because there's this whole idea that, you know, uranium's dangerous for you, but it actually isn't until you actually start to put it through the chemical reaction, like, you know, in the reactor. That's when it gets actually dangerous. But, you know, you can actually have the yellow cake and pass it on to people. But I mean, I still probably wouldn't do it. But
The yellow cake, or Galen's carrot cake.
Yeah, see, there you go. It's just basically a rock. It's nothing, too fantastically, you can't really tell it from other things unless I guess you put a Geiger counter to it. So
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. Chris Perry, you've talked to
there
the
it is.
Azincourt boys.
Yeah.
Some pictures.
So, I did a video with Mr. Clintman last week where we sort of asked the pressing questions. One, why is Azincourt interesting today when it wasn't necessarily moving the dial last year, the year before that? And the answer is pretty simple. It's progressing. He's moving along. He's sitting in a nice neighborhood, as you guys figured out. He's in Yellow Cake City. He doesn't necessarily have to drain a lake like fishing to get at the good stuff. He's got some cash in the bank. He's got some big partners. He's been in the business long enough to show people a track record. And I guess the other question that I had for him was like, we keep hearing that uranium is about to pop, but we've been hearing that for 5 years, and the only thing that popped was Fukushima. So, why now for uranium? And honestly, I was quite impressed with his answers, that they weren't like, now is the time, like, oh my God, desperate. It was just like, look, man, we're just going to keep moving this thing along.
Yep.
We're doing what we told people we're going to do. We're not breaking any promises. We're not overhyping. We're just trudging forward with this thing and getting into a place where, when it becomes really clear that nuclear power is your green way forward, and maybe coal-fired power plants, that fuel Teslas isn't exactly green. When we get over this sort of hand-wringing from the 1980s that anything that is involved with nuclear power is eventually going to leak and become like the thing that makes our fish three-eyed, there actually will be a bit of a business there for that needs a lot more uranium than is currently coming out of the ground. So, for me, the Azincourt idea isn't I got to buy it today or I'm going to miss the train. It's hey, if it's down today, might be a good idea to pick some up. If it's down next week, might be a good idea to pick some up. And I'm not going to go and check it every day. I'm not going to go and like obsess over whether the price is up a cent or down a cent, because it's just freaking cheap at the current prices. It's just not one of those deals where, hang on, let me check out the market cap today.
37 million?
37 million bucks for what they have is pretty damn reasonable. And so it's not like a train leaving the station, got to get it before it gets super hyped. It's just a damn good little outfit in a sector that I think has legs, where right now we're seeing what is happening in the energy industry with oil. Tells you that we might be a very short time away from needing some really new energy options. And when we do, the prices are going to go through the roof. So Azincourt's a good little outfit. Not every company in the resource space actually wants to drill. Not every company wants to spoil a good story by sticking drills in the ground. And in fact, some of them, the only risk that there'll ever be a hole in the ground is if a drill falls out of a passing plane. Azincourt's not that. And so respect to Alex, and we keep talking about it, how it's a good deal. And I don't think that anything I've seen over the last year has changed that. As we started talking about it more recently, price is up from 6 cents to 8.5, which seems like, it's only 2.5 cents. But, hey, that's a 1/3 increase in the last few weeks.
Now, Chris, further to your comment in regards to uranium, I mean, it's not exploding like Bitcoin, but it is up over double since April of last year. Like,
and I don't want to be investing in things that are exploding like Bitcoin, because what happens is they implode like Bitcoin.
They fall just as quickly.
Right?
So I think uranium is building a steady climb right now. I think it's actually on the rise in a more permanent way than just sort of bumping up and down.
It's just a steady little jump.
Don't worry, though.
And it's not gonna go down anytime soon. Like, if the Russians had gone and thrown a mortar through the side of a nuclear power plant in Ukraine, we might be wringing our hands for a little bit while longer. But honestly, of all the options that are out there, look, solar's good, but in order to make it work, you need batteries the size of football fields and to dig up enough nickel to, get to space. Tidal is great, but, ineffective so far. Wind power is great until the wind stops. Again, you need that monster battery that we haven't really been able to figure out yet. Coal power sucks. Oil and gas sucks. And so if we're going to go to an all-electric automobile world, we're going to need a lot more power and a lot more manageable ways. And honestly, nuclear reactors are the way to go.
Yeah, and especially with the new technology. We're not talking about the old one where you had Fukushima, a 3 Mile Island, and many other lovely incidents. What we're talking about right now, Bill Gates is pushing through a company called Terra Power. It's actually experimenting with, it's an established technology. It actually started alongside the original way that we made nuclear reactors, but because an American general decided to be much easier for them to feed a nuclear submarine with seawater as a coolant rather than liquid sodium, they went with that style, which was inherently more dangerous. So basically what this new system is, it's called a breeder reactor. It uses the material and it pretty well uses it all up. There's no heavy water on the backside and much, much, much less radioactive material being disposed of at the end of the term. As far as I'm concerned, these type of breeder reactors are the answer for nuclear fission reactors. If we ever reach nuclear fusion, then that might be something else to take a look at. But right now they haven't reached anywhere near. They're barely making an even as far as power put into power coming out. So it'll be a while before that technology happens.
Back in the 80s, 90s, the real concern was not that we might have a leak, but where do you put the spent material? And that's a lot less of a problem right now. The leaks are a lot less of a problem right now as well.
I believe, by the way, Michelle, before you do charts, you can comment because you are Mr. Resources. And I also believe my Uncle Homer refers to it as nuclear.
Nuclear, yep. No, I was just going to say, I thought you would load up all that used nuclear that used uranium and put it in a missile and shoot it into the sun, right? Wasn't that the
that was
the way to dispose
of
it back in the day?
As long as Nevada was happy to just chuck it in a hole in the ground and put lots of warning signs for the next 100 years, there was
was that a movie? Because I'm talking about a TV show. You're talking about what, a movie? Or did they actually say they could shoot it at the sun?
I thought that was actually a legit thing back in the day.
There's been all sorts of things that have been proposed in regards to dealing with nuclear waste. But with, as I said, the breeder reactor format, there will be so much less that it won't necessarily be a problem.
Yeah, right.
Plus, if you dig it up in the ground, you never know. Maybe Godzilla will come around and eat it up, right? You don't want
Godzilla.
You don't want those kaiju coming and eat up your nuclear.
I feel like Godzilla's not in my investment plans.
Not an investment risk.
What about Homer Simpson?
More so.
I'm sure you could get him to eat that material. He eats those sandwiches, so why not?
All right, VV.
Okay, yeah. If you guys have been following the markets, commodities of all sorts, the agriculturals, the metals. The day we're recording, nickel had a 90% single day move. You can see here coal moved 13% today. So big numbers here in the commodity sector. A lot to do, of course, with the war-fueled supply chain disruptions possibility there. And uranium is one of them. Uranium, yeah. Big pop. Really, really big pop in the last few weeks here. We were just at $45 a pound, US dollars around the end of February. Today, we're hitting prices of around $51. And this is just a daily chart, but I just want to sort of show you guys this triangle thing. I can't draw it, but you're going to see it in the next charts here. It's going to be a theme. But the most important thing to really take out is that we have actually broken out. So there is technically a breakout here in uranium on the daily chart. We have just been basically holding this we're holding support at $43 per pound on uranium since November of 2021. We looked like we were going to break below it in December. Didn't happen. We bounced a bit. Looked like we were going to break below actually in early February of this year. And then you guys sort of know on the geopolitical side what happened to cause the prices there to jump. If I go back even further, so let's take a look at a 25-year chart of the uranium spot market here. In previous shows, we've talked about this, basically this bottoming pattern around the 30s, and we're at 51 now. There is a bit of resistance here, just technically. So I'm just saying, in the maybe the medium term here, there might be, say, a pullback in uranium, maybe because the Federal Reserve hikes rates and that causes the dollar to pop, which brings down commodities, or hopefully the Russia-Ukraine situation sort of is resolved peacefully, and that might cause a bunch of commodities to sort of give up these gains here. But as Chris mentioned and as Galen mentioned, the one factor is still uranium and nuclear energy being that CO2 free energy for the future. And I think that's the real play, right? You're not really wanting to play uranium because of some supply chain disruption story. I think you want to play it as it being the best source of energy for a green world in the future. However, I was just taking a look actually here at Agincourt's PowerPoint, and they have this, PowerPoint present slide here where U.S. reactors get their uranium. You can see here Kazakhstan is a big chunk, and so is Russia here. And we've heard about Kazakhstan with Kazatomprom, who basically supply 40% of the world's uranium, and Kazakhstan had an issue a few months ago now, I think, which caused uranium prices to pop a little bit. And then, of course, we're hearing about all these sanctions here in Russia. And, perhaps the real winner is going to be Canadian uranium companies here, because they supply quite a lot to U.S. reactors and perhaps world reactors as well, if they're not going to be getting their uranium from the Russians or the Kazakhs. But, I think Canada could come out as the real winner here. So taking a look at some of these charts here, I'm looking at the Sprott physical uranium, which is U.UN on the Canadian exchange. And this is just what I use in terms of my gauge for the spot price. So it's literally pretty much very similar looking chart. And Sprott made this ETF, or this fund essentially to track physical uranium prices. So if you want to play physical uranium and you can't really trade, futures or options and that kind of stuff, take a look at U.UN. And essentially I mentioned this triangle pattern with, I can't draw on this chart, but this is sort of what I meant, where we've had this breakout above a triangle pattern. And you're going to see this not only in Sprott uranium, you're going to also see this in Cameco, which is the largest producer here in Canada. And of course, one of their joint venture projects is actually next to Agincourt's East Preston project. So Cameco is also breaking out. So you got, uranium spot breaking out. You have your Cameco breaking out here. Had a bit of a retest, and we did see a bit of a bid up here on Cameco. I'd love to see it close above 32 to basically initiate a new basically uptrend and create more higher lows to the way up, and we just ride that. And then finally, let's take a look at Agincourt, and very similar structure again. Triangle pattern breakout. However, in the case of Agincourt, on the 4th of March, so that was Friday of last week, we actually did have a retest of that broken trend line, which is perfectly normal. We tend to see prices, pull back. Didn't, almost happened here with Cameco, but you tend to see prices pull back before they continue the leg higher. And, maybe Cameco is going to do that. And perhaps Agincourt is going to do that as well. Very similar structure here. We are just waiting now for that close above 8.5 cents here on the daily chart. And we're good to go. A few things to point out on the chart actually is, first of all, this support area between 5 to 6 cents, very, very strong, very supportive. Back in September of 2021, we had a 105% pop at that zone, and hopefully we see the same right now, because we have actually sort of bounced at that same sort of support area. But I think the real play, or the real story here, is the volume. And if I show you guys the historical data here, look at some of the volume coming in the past few days. Today, on the day of recording, 5.9 million shares traded. On March 4th, 2.6 million shares traded. March 3rd, 3.3. So, we've been seeing millions of shares traded, and a big one on March 1st, where we had 7.385 million shares traded here. So I think that's quite a substantial bump up in the amount of shares that are traded. Usually we get a nice, 6 figures. I do see a few million shares a day traded trading days there, but nothing like this where you just get day after day of millions of shares traded, all happening near a major support after a breakout, and with uranium spot price and Cameco and everything else looking bullish here. So things look really good for the uranium space. There is a bit of a move here because of the geopolitics, but as we said, I think the real move is for front running this move to nuclear energy or more nuclear energy for the future.
Did we first post that Chris Perry interview early last week or middle of last week? Or did we not?
No, you posted it. I think it was, middle last week? Something like that.
Yeah.
It ain't no coincidence, baby.
Yeah.
we got some love there. So now the question is, we start with Galen. Are you going to give them any love with your $7,500 allotment?
I think at this point in time, the company in and of itself, regarding its assets, where it's located, what the possibilities are, it most likely doesn't present an argument for, I don't know where the hell this is heading. It could be going south, so why would I get involved? I'm guessing at this point in time, this would be a bit of a stretcher. I wouldn't throw it all in right now. I'd probably put a little bit in right now, so let's say about 2,500. And I would see where they're at after their results, because that's always important, and then would continue accordingly as those results come out. But they're in there, they're drilling, and they're making stuff happen. So as far as a junior explorer is concerned, that's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching this today and the day it comes out, you can also see that if you missed the Chris Perry interview, you can see the Chris Perry interview right around us.
It's worth it. It's worth it just because we're both dashingly attractive, if for no other reason.
I know. I was totally taken when I was recording the video. Just,
thanks, man.
Yeah.
How much cashish?
Look, I like I said, I don't think that this is a train leaving the station kind of thing, but a 30% jump in a couple of weeks is no small thing. We're going to apply a little bit of that to the Equity.Guru effect, but also it's just undervalued. Like, I think this is a lot of uranium companies got a little bit of a jump last year, and then there was kind of a sell-off. I think Azincourt kind of got the sell-off and didn't get much of the jump. So I think that you're just looking at a decent investment if you put something in now. I'd throw a couple of $1,000 at it. I like the volume, as Vishal pointed out. There's probably, this is a deal that's been around for a while, so if it does get a bit of run, there's going to be some selling pressure from people who've been in it for years and maybe have other things to do. But I think that there's going to be a general upsurge over the coming months, perhaps years. And I like this as something to stick in my RSP.
Resource man.
Yep. So I like the uranium sector here. I would, put some money in Cameco, put some money in Sprott just to play uranium in general. For Agincourt, though, I would put around 3K, just because, I love the technicals here. I like that breakout. I do think, though, that there is a chance uranium prices could fall a bit, because if it is the geopolitical reasons, and if that's obviously, we hope it's resolved peacefully, right? That would bring... Yeah, that could bring the prices of a lot of these commodities that have rallied, just like oil and et cetera, a bit lower. But I think Agincourt, in terms of technicals, like this 5 cent to 6 cent zone, it's a very strong support. It's been holding since 2020 around this zone. So we're only like 3 cents away from that area, or 2 cents away from that area. So I think even if you enter here with this breakout, even if there is a bit of a dip on it, I just think there will be more buyers between 5 to 6 cents. So I think from a risk to reward perspective, it's a good junior uranium junior explorer to be into with the technicals and where the uranium market is in general right now.
And we should also point out that previously we've had dealings with Sky Harbor, who's partnered up with Azincourt. If you like Azincourt, you should like Sky Harbor. Similar sort of deal, maybe a bit more advanced. A bit bigger, but same sort of lineup. Just really good operators who know what they're doing, have been around for a while, never told a lie, have followed through on their promises, and the shares should accrete.
I don't know if this deserves saying or not, but Azincourt is a client of ours, just so you can take that in stride. But
Sure.
It's a nice deal, regardless.
And I think the fact that they're clients of ours, like you can go back to that Azincourt interview and you see that the hard questions are asked, we're not the sort of group that if somebody's sponsoring the company, that we go out and say, hey, everybody, it's all great. Go buy, go buy. It seems counterintuitive, but, we actually do like to give our clients a bit of a hard time and make them prove themselves. And Azincourt are doing just that.
Very nice. The Gauntlet, Chris Perry, it's on up there. You'll see a Jody Vance interview as well with Alex, and some deep dive written material from our fine writers. Folks, make sure you do your own homework, do your own research, please. We can't guarantee anything that we've said, and past performance does not, of course, guarantee future results. So check it out before you invest, but feel free to get after it. We will see you yet again on yet another delightful Equity Guru Investor Roundtable next time. Thanks for checking us out. And checking out Azincourt under Alex Clemen at AAZ on the Venture Exchange out of Vancouver. Cheers.